we all get together and we just help other entrepreneurs. And Randy and I, the foundation of this starting when COVID hit was just to really help as many people as we possibly could. And we've just been going live every week and interviewing interesting people. And so, maybe just to get started, what's your mission? Talk a little bit about your mission, and then we'll kind of jump into, some conversation from there.
Sure, Andy, you want to?
Andy,
sure.
He's got the best looking jacket, so he goes first.
That's right. The best looking, the best dressed guy here.
Are those chickens or what are they?
Tulips.
Okay.
Tulips. Yes. So, John, we really appreciate the invitation. We're all excited to be here. So Todd, Nigel, and I have been a member of a business conclave that gets together. It started with the Birthing of Giants at MIT in Boston, at MIT campus in Boston. And our group has since gone on, and we gather every year. We could now call ourselves the Gathering of Titans. And we gather for a week every year. So we've known each other for a long, long time. And it's interesting. We started talking, I think it was late last fall sometimes, wasn't it? About, we all, Todd does a lot of coaching, is on a lot of stages. Nigel with his book tour. I do a lot of keynotes. We thought, let's team up and do something fun together. And we talked about just doing some talks and sharing our lessons from the edge. And then COVID hit. And we kind of put this on the front burner and said, let's do this. And actually, for the next little while, let's reach out to the entrepreneur organization community. Let's reach out to business communities, podcasts similar to yours, and let's offer our time up for free, and do these talks. And we've been doing them. They started. Our first one was in EO chapter in Winnipeg, Canada. We've done them all over the world, including Malaysia last week, and it's been really. So our mission is to share our experiences because, as we put it, we all have a few gray hairs. We've been through a few recessions, and a lot of entrepreneurs, this is their first real tough challenge that they're facing. And we have some experience that we take for granted, but others might be able to benefit from. So we've been doing this virtual speaking tour, sharing personal stories and the lessons we learned from our tough times. Nice. And our goal is to give inspiration and a few nuggets for people to help them get through their tough times.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
And
we all actually evolved out of the Entrepreneurs Organization, which we'd all been in for years, and some of us are alumni and some of us are still in. So that was one of the key
you become an alumni with over 40 years of age, I believe, right?
Yeah, right.
So
we're all there.
As you're going into companies, right? So we all have a lot in common, and I'm a business coach, and I find that my client is somebody who is stuck, right? And I think there's a lot of stucks out there right now. And so, where are you not only seeing the stucks, but how do people get stuck consistently, which I think is the key, right? How do they get unstuck consistently in this ever-changing market, which seems to be changing by the day? And I personally don't see it stopping. I don't see the change stopping for at least a decade.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to your point, John. It's like piggybacking off of what Andy and Nigel were talking about. An entrepreneur alone is an entrepreneur at risk. And I think part of the reason why a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck initially is because they isolate. They act like they're rugged individuals. I know that's what I did when I was a younger entrepreneur. I got 10 years into my entrepreneurial journey. I got $600,000 into debt, 2 months away from running out of all of my money, including losing my house where my kid and I lived. I was a single parent. And I had to raise my hand and finally reach out and ask for help. So how I got stuck is I isolated. I lived in a vacuum. I didn't deal with the itty bitty shitty committee in my head that was telling me how much I sucked and how the business was all screwed up and how it was all my fault. So finally I raised my hand and asked for help, and I connected with people like Andy and Nigel, part of my tribe. And that tribe has helped get me unstuck over the course of time, just like coaches like you and I do. It's so much of the mindset of the entrepreneur that gets us stuck, in my experience.
I just want to comment on that real quickly. And then I know Randy will have some questions on this too, but I think one of the hardest things is to ask for help. And so I know you kind of talked about it in like a quick, boom. But the courage and the vulnerability needed to ask for help and reach out to mentors and really commit to that it's not easy. And just throw that out there, that even if you need help and can't ask for help, you picking up the phone and asking anybody for help is key.
Yeah, and I think for me anyway, it's that rock bottom. Nobody wants to ask for help. We're kind of these macho entrepreneurial guys, and for me, it was like that as well. I had such a hard time, and I call it. I think I talked to you the other day about my doorknob effect. I would go to my office every day, and my office door would be vibrating because I knew I'd have to step through into a complete chaos of a bee's nest going on inside, and it happened year after year after year.
Right.
And until I was actually dragged into the Entrepreneurs Organization, and until I actually was really smacked so hard by a friend of mine that said, you need a coach. I just wasn't paying any attention. I just didn't think I had time. And I know we talked about how, the significance for me the other day of how I was able to turn my life around, with the help of a coach. And I'm not a coach. Andy and Todd are coaches. And John, I know you're a coach. But it's just, and I told you the other day, I would stand from the rooftops and yell as loud as I could how important it is to get help, because we can't do life alone.
Yeah. It's interesting because Randy is an estate attorney. He's a business attorney. He's a business strategist. And, I would say, Randy, I'd love your comment on this. I know you probably have some questions too, but, it's kind of like there's those people that are proactive that use people like Randy. And then there's the reactive once they get in trouble. And then they think to themselves, why didn't I ask for help sooner? I'm in a mess. What, any thoughts, Randy?
Yeah, so I want to go back to, Andy's jacket. So what I find ironic is on Andy's jacket, you have a tulip. A tulip is a perennial flower. So it comes back every year. So one thing that agonizes so many business owners is, and it's not every year, it's every day, it's every hour, it's every minute, is change. So, I think you had given a quote on your introductory video where I believe it was, being an entrepreneur is one of the most secure jobs. So in the context of being stuck and unstuck, it's a constant rut that we find ourselves in, and yet we climb out of it. I'd be curious on each of your takes, starting with you, Andy, in a post-COVID world, how many people are coping with this, especially as the entrepreneurs who find themselves in their businesses suffering, many of whom have gotten government loans, many of whom have businesses shuttered, depending on what state they're in and the mood of the governors of those states. So I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are.
So how many of the entrepreneurs...
Before you comment, can I just give Randy a kudos for tying in your jacket to the foundation of that question?
I'm listening.
Sheer brilliant. That was brilliant. All right, that's all. Okay, go ahead. I don't even interrupt.
So I do believe that I think I do strongly believe that being an entrepreneur is the most secure job in the world, because by definition, it means you're going to put one foot in front of the other and move forward. And that was a piece of advice that I got from one of my mentors when I was in the lowest of the low. And I tell a story. It was like one of my lowest days when I went through bankruptcy 10 years ago now. But it's people that get through it are the ones that will keep pushing forward. And the other thing that he mentioned that day that I'll always remember as well is he said, Andy, there's going to be people that will want to help you out. And if I can give you one piece of advice, let them. Be okay with it. If somebody wants to help you out, somebody wants to give you some advice, help you make an introduction, even loan you money, like pay them back, but let them help you. Don't be ashamed in it, because someday you'll be in a position where you can help others. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny. Here we are 10 years later, and I've helped a number of people, not just with the three of us, but even locally here. I've taken, I don't know how many phone calls over the last number of weeks. So a lot of the entrepreneurs that are willing to take that step, reach out for help, are willing to keep pushing forward, will get through this. It might not be easy for some, but they will. And I just tell people, don't give up. your business may look totally different. You may be in a different business. You may end up in a different business, selling a different service or product line to a different clientele, but don't give up. Keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Well said. How about you guys? Nigel,
So,
Todd.
you know,
Yeah.
to
ahead, Todd.
piggyback off of what Andy's talking about, you know, it's so many entrepreneurs are stuck right now around change, and tied with the change is that uncertain future. And I think as entrepreneurs, what we have to remember and we have to recognize that we have to have a lot of intentionality about what we want. When I was $600,000 in debt and I hired my coach, the first thing he said, he goes, "What's your first goal?" I said, "I want to get out of debt." And he said, "Okay, are you okay not knowing how you're going to get out of debt?" And I never thought about it like that. He's like, "You've got to focus on the intentional aspect of it. If you tie in that expectation's going to become an anchor. And when you reach the inevitable stumbles in the road and the roadblocks ahead, you're going to feel defeated. So if you focus on that intention of, I want to get out of debt, I'm not sure how, it will go a whole lot smoother. And I think we're seeing a lot of that now. So, you know, the happy byproduct for my business is we did get out of debt. It took about 8 to 9 years. And in that process, we found these inflection points within the business that we didn't see prior to that if we only focused on one tunnel, we would have missed. And that helped us make the Inc. 5000 as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States 6 times. My goal wasn't to make the list. My goal was to be out of debt. And if I only focus on one way, and with entrepreneurs right now, to Andy's point is your business might look different. Your industry might look different, but that doesn't make you it doesn't make you not an entrepreneur. And Andy's got a great quote where he talks about someone said to him, you've done really well in maybe a really tough business. Imagine how great you're going to do in a great business.
Right. I've got a little story around that. And I don't know if I mentioned it to John the other day, but in 2008, when things were crashing around all of us, I had a major fraud case inside my business. So I had 2008 coming like a snowball, getting bigger by the day, and then this fraud case. And we were about $900,000 in debt that we never realized because our CFO was the one that was squirreling money away from us. And we caught him, and he actually did 3 years in prison because of it. But we were having a really tough time, and our bank was about to yank our line of credit, and they gave us 6 months until Christmas to get things sorted out. And so what we did is we rallied the troops. I had a coach helping me at this time as well. We rallied our troops, and we sat in our boardroom and go, what are we doing wrong? What are we not seeing? And I think this is happening now. So what are we not seeing? And what we were doing at that time is we were selling high margin product. What we do is we're in the oil spill response business for marine oil spills around the globe. And we were selling equipment. We were high margin and high volume. And we thought, where is this business going to go? Where's our space going to go? At that point, we had probably 100 competitors around the world, and we're having a really tough time. But we had to make this $900,000 back before Christmas. And what we realized with the risk for the oil industry at that time was not near shore. A lot of it was offshore. They were going further and further offshore and deeper and deeper and deeper into places where humans had never really been. And that's where we felt the next opportunity for us was going to be. And so what we did is we refocused our business to the offshore, away from what we'd been always doing. Our status quo, we were always grinding away in this space, but we shifted the technology to focus offshore, which was much higher margins, and there was only 4 competitors globally in the space that we were in. And within about a year, we were able to get some of our money back. But then in 2010, the BP Horizon oil spill hit in the Gulf of Mexico, and we'd had proposals on oil industry desks previously for this larger offshore equipment, and purchase orders just started flying. We were smacked on the side of the head. We had this fraud case, and we were forced to shift and forced to look inside. And it was the best thing that ever happened to us. Yeah. The hardship that we went through was the best thing that happened to us. Yeah. And what we learned to do was adapt really quickly to the market. And I think that's what's happening now. There's a lot of opportunity out there. But if we stay in the status quo of what we've always been used to, we're going to die a slow death.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to it is, it takes incredible grit. It also takes
Right.
luck. So
Yes.
yeah. So and I talk to clients about that all the time who are exceptionally smart, talented, and effectively they're just down on their luck. Whereas you have others that aren't so talented, aren't so smart, but have incredible luck.
So I've got
Andy, you want to talk about
that?
Yeah.
One of the nuggets.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, guys.
One of the nuggets that I always share is what is going to be your return on luck? Because Jim Collins wrote in Great by Choice in 2011, he's got a whole section, return on luck, and found that companies that have consistent return on luck are the ones that think strategically and look at, like Nigel said, where's the industry going? Where are your customers going? Where's the market going? And go to where the puck is going to be as opposed to where the puck is now. And what he found was, regardless whether it was good luck or bad luck, the companies that had consistent return on luck, it didn't matter. Whenever there's turmoil, there's opportunity.
Yeah.
But many of us freeze, right? We freeze and we want to hunker down and come out of it with the same company we went into it with. But they just, as long as we can survive till July, we'll be okay.
Right.
But if you look at it, whenever there's turmoil, there's opportunity. Now's your time to reinvent or to go after an adjacent market or product or service and find that return on what might be really bad luck. I'm convinced you can find it.
Yeah.
Most companies.
There's a, if you just take the sentence, because I think a lot of companies run into this and say, what am I going to do? You either end it with a question mark or an exclamation point. And the ones that get stuck in the victim mode with the question mark and just sits. But you guys bring up a lot of good points. There's many studies that show pre-COVID that by 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist in 2030 don't exist today. So before COVID, we were in an ever-changing market that even colleges were trying to figure out, how do we teach adaptability? Yes. And so to me, COVID just accelerated that. I agree with everything that's been said today. And so to the companies out there that thought they were current, thought they were modern, realized they were 2005-ish, the last 3 months, how are you advising those people today?
Well, here's what I'm telling my clients. I work with clients that are startup stage all the way to, $20, $30 million in revenue. And I'm telling them to really be very strategic in how you focus on your number one asset. And your number one asset is your people. At least that's my philosophy. I'm a inside out leadership coach. I focus very much on people as the number one differentiator. And if you've got, this is the craziest thing, going back to the changes that are being made, is I've got clients that, I'm laying off half my staff. Okay, how many is that? There's going to be 20 people. Okay. Well, when you bring those 20 people back, it's like, oh, no, wait a minute. I'm only bringing back 15. 5 of them I should have let go before. So part of that dealing with people is communicate, and then communicate again. And then as you communicate with it, be clear on who you're not bringing back and offer them new opportunities elsewhere on someone else's team, on someone else's payroll. Take a look at what you can do with automation. Take a look at what you can do with robots. I do a lot of work in Metro Detroit with manufacturing companies. Automation, robots, artificial intelligence. There's still going to be, and then the last thing, especially with millennials, I'm telling my clients, is to pay attention to how millennials work. Millennials are going to more and more going to want to work from home, believe it or not. And they are going to be willing to trade freedom and flexibility for maybe less money. How can you work with that and pivot from hours put in versus work output created? My son's a CPA. He's 29 years old. He's willing to work to get, if you tell him, I'll work from midnight to 6 every day because he wants to stay up all night playing video games with his buddies on the West Coast. As long as he gets his work product done, he's worked to deal with his employer. He has deadlines. They don't care when he puts the hours in. So there's a lot of shifts around people within businesses that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Andy, how about you?
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm partners in a company called Tulip Media, hence the jacket. Help you be the red tulip, the sea of yellow. That's the reason for the jacket.
Today.
But so in COVID, we were set up. We were working completely in the cloud, and I see different clients adapting different ways. But for ourselves personally, when everything started going on lockdown, we made the call on 3:00 on a Friday afternoon, Monday afternoon, saying, okay, we're going to go virtual. Next morning, 9 a.m., everybody was set up at their home office. It was great. And then about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, our jurisdiction started opening up and lifting restrictions. So, I kind of got together with the team and said, what do you guys think? And they said, well, we kind of like it this way. So we decided to go completely virtual as a company. And what we're finding is that they're getting work done. They're much more efficient, and it's much more flexible. I've got people that have been taking most Fridays off, and I don't mind because they're hitting all their deadlines. And I know that on Tuesday night they were working till 10. On Sunday evening they're getting back to clients about this, that, and the other thing. It is changing. It is changing the world, but people say, what are the changes that are going to be permanent? And the way I look at it, the changes that will be permanent are the ones that advance us, that make it, things are better, things are more efficient, things are more productive. Those are the changes that are going to stick. A lot of the other ones are going to, are not going to change. We're social beings. We are going to get back together. We need that human connection. So we are going to start traveling again. We are going to start staying at hotels again, albeit, maybe a little while down the road. But some of these changes are going to stick. My 82-year, I put it this way to somebody yesterday. I said, my 82-year-old father knows how to use Zoom right now. That would have never happened had COVID didn't come.
I love it.
It wouldn't have happened. And now he loves it because now he's talking to relatives, in Europe that he never spoke to before. And that's going to be something that's going to stick.
That's right. I know philanthropy is a piece for you guys. And we have Gina asking, how do you advise entrepreneurs to approach philanthropy in times of crisis?
Wow.
Nigel, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of nonprofits out there right now are having a really, really tough time. And people are too, but I think it's really important not to forget. For example, we do a sleep out every year for Covenant House. Covenant House is in pretty much every city in the US and Canada, and they help at-risk youth. And what my wife and my daughter were doing is they were going to go sleep in an alleyway and raise money for the kids just before COVID hit. And they raised a bunch of money, and it was canceled because of COVID. So they had an email yesterday saying, hey, don't forget about us. We're going to do anything we can to help the kids. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a sleep out through Zoom. So my wife, my daughter, and our whole family, we're all going to sleep in the driveway. And people all over that we're going to do this, they're all going to do the same thing. So things are shifting and changing. But I think it's really important to remember that these organizations are having a really tough time right now, and not to forget them. And if there's other ways that we can support them by helping them, by giving of ourselves, donating our time, which is amazing. Giving a check is great, but giving of ourselves is huge. And like I said before, giving as a family, there's nothing more powerful than that. So well, for me anyway. Yeah.
Randy, any thoughts?
I remember reading that it was said that 20,000 years of progress would occur in the next 100 years. So what are your thoughts in terms of, you mentioned the 82-year-old father who knows Zoom. What about the non-millennial that's not able to adjust? And assuming they're an entrepreneur, how do they continue to, keep that fabric on and move toward things in the absence of a coach? What do they do? I know some people that won't make it, but how do we get out of that?
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to throw one quick thing in there. I mean, for me and for the other two guys here, one of the key things to our success, or us getting through different crises, was joining a really good peer group. And our peer group at that time was the Entrepreneurs Organization. And inside the Entrepreneurs Organization, we have focus groups, or they're called forum groups. And in times like these, we just did a talk for EO, Malaysia, Winnipeg, and different EO groups. And what they're finding right now is people are actually dropping out because they're having a hard time. Where actually, this is the time that we should be 2 feet in and 2 feet into our forum group and leaning on our forum members. And I mean, it was absolutely critical for me, and for these guys would say the same. So that's one little thing. Like, really be part of a really good peer group that you can lean on.
So Randall, to answer your question from an entrepreneur who had a really hard time asking for help, I think if someone's having a struggle making a pivot and a change, the first question I would ask them is, what are they afraid of? Because I'm finding my entrepreneurs that are having a really tough time embracing the obvious changes. It comes down for typically two things that I worked them through is pride and ego. And, my generation doesn't ask for help. I love Andy. I'm going to tell Andy's dad's story later. I got another one of these I've got to do about if an 82-year-old guy can embrace Zoom and look forward to it and engage with people he hasn't seen potentially, maybe ever with, the 23andMe's, all this stuff nowadays. Yeah. Several years. I mean, those are heartwarming stories. And where is the opportunity within the tragedy? Because if, restaurants, and I worked with an entrepreneur out of Canada. She had a destination resort type of venue business, $3 million bank loan. She's like, I'm done. I'm filing bankruptcy. Within 60 minutes, I got her repivoted and we become friends now. She's not even an active coaching client of mine. And she is pivoting her business and she's doing something every single day on social media, engaging her audiences. She's changed her goal from filling butts and seats to how many followers can I get? So when this does reopen, I will be that place of choice. It's not exactly what she wants to be doing, but she's finding that one of those 5 positive things to do every day. But the thing I had to help her work through was her pride and her ego of what she thought and what the world was going to be and how she has to pivot off of it. Because change is going to be, as I think all 5 of us know, change is a consistent part of daily life now.
Yeah. I just want to comment one thing. I love that story because I love, when I'm talking to clients, Todd, what I'm saying is whatever you're doing, social media wise marketing, double it. And then keep on doing more and keep on doubling it. Because it's time to grow that brand. And we all are, I would say everybody on this call is giving regardless if they're a client or not. So I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Another quick point on that. Like people do, and I learned this philosophy a few years ago, but people do resist change because, they fear the change. They know that right now they know the present situation. They know the good aspects, the positives and the negatives. Whenever there's change, they'll say, okay, I know that this is what can go wrong. And they'll know that. And they'll feel like they know that 100%. But the upside, they discount it by 50%. And I remember a guy saying, if you want someone to change, so if you have an entrepreneur friend that is resisting change, you got to change the math. Meaning you've got to say, okay, if you don't change, where's your business going right now? Where do you think it's going to be? If it continues like this for another 2-4 months, where's it going to be? And if they can see, oh my God, status quo actually is really, really, really bad. Yeah. So therefore, okay, if you change, I believe you'll have a big upside. Maybe you don't believe that right now, but experiment. You just got to change the math. You got to make the negative of the current situation much bigger than the potential positive of a future change state. And a lot of people resist that, but not changing it. You've got to point out the risks of not changing.
2 books I want to highlight. One, which is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. If you haven't read it, great book, and it talks about the power of resistance and why we resist, and how that is not healthy for us. And 2, another book that I actually started today that is all revolved around living in neutral and talks about the negative effects of just negative thinking. Right, negative thinking is 7 to 70 times more powerful than positive thinking. And the book is called, I'm going to tell you what it's called. I literally started it this morning. It Takes What It Takes. That's by Trevor Mowat. And so with that being said, what is your guys' favorite book?
Oh man!
That you would recommend to someone?
So would it be bad for me to recommend Nigel's book? I mean,
yeah, Nigel's book.
only if Andy recommends Nigel.
No, you can't recommend my book.
So it's funny. I'm reading about a book a week right now.
Favorite book? No, I'm kidding. But seriously, what is?
Well, so I just finished Split the Difference from Chris Voss about negotiation, and I thought it was all. I literally was so immersed into it that I stopped. I was a chapter in. Then there's Nigel's book. Yeah. And Nigel's cover is better than Chris's cover. But for me, I was so wrapped up in all the nuggets that I got an audio copy and a hard copy. I started over with the audio copy. So it was like having a professor in my ear. I really got a lot out of the Never Split the Difference.
Good.
Awesome.
Nigel, mine is your book, of course.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Mine would be right now is The Soul of Money. Talking about philanthropy is Lynn Twist. She was an amazing speaker, and I spent time with her in the rainforest of the Amazon. And it's all about the flow and what money, the good that money can do, and not hoarding it and letting it flow and create good in the world.
And I don't want to forget, and don't forget Andy's book too.
Yeah.
We have Andy's book.
Where's Todd's book? You got Todd's book too.
Todd's book will be out in September.
Right.
For myself, I tell everybody that one of the best business books I've read in the last year is Chris Voss's book. So Todd took mine. But the other one I'm halfway through right now is called The Master Coach. I actually really, really enjoy it. It's not just for business coaches. It's for any business leader and how to approach, coaching your subordinates, coaching people around you, coaching family members to be the best versions of themselves. It's a really powerful book. It's actually very, very good. So I'm halfway through it. I'll let you know how it ends, but it's awesome.
All right, good. Randy, how about you? Any good ones?
As a father of 4 young children, it's very difficult. And, being a tax attorney with Congress in the United States, I got to continue to stay on top of that. So I can't offer anything to you gentlemen.
All right. Well, let me just say this to you fellas. It was a pleasure connecting with you. I love your mission of what you're doing to just help as many people. It's very in alignment with what Randy and I individually do and what we do collectively each week when we have this live. So thank you guys very much. As far as getting a hold of you, I know they can go to 3CEOs.com. But I'm grateful that our paths crossed, Nigel, and that you offered this opportunity as well.
That's wonderful.
Thank you guys for the wisdom. And Randy, I'll let you close. Yeah,
a couple things that I learned today is, return on luck. I'm going to use that often, but the ROL, I wouldn't mind being lucky.
Yeah.
You can be smart, you can be successful, but you still need luck. And you 3 display a lot of fearlessness and curiosity. And that's something I think every entrepreneur needs, especially to get out and get realigned. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, fellas. We appreciate your time. Hold on for 2 seconds.
You betcha.